Assalamualaikum to the panels. Thank you for your time. Today, I would like to present my final year project, Development of Heart Rate Sensor Warning System to estimate drivers' cognitive distraction level. Cognitive distractions occurs when attention is not focused on the primary driving task. The effect of the cognitive distraction can lead to the poor driving performance. This situation is the causes to the increasing of road accidents in Malaysia. With the increasing number of registered vehicles, fatalities contributed by road user keep increasing. According to MyROS, every day there were 18 people killed due to road accidents. The problem statements for this research are: drivers tend to continue to drive because they think they still fit to drive, because no warning system to alert them. Next, to detect the heart rate and cognitive distraction level of driver, other problems occur during driving that may influence the driving performance. Lastly, to set the cognitive distraction level of the driver while they are driving. The objective of this research, first, to develop a warning system device that can alert the driver about their cognitive distraction status when driving. Second, to evaluate the correlation between heart rate and cognitive distraction level of the drivers that influence to driving performance. And third, to test the functionality of heart rate warning system based on the cognitive distraction level of the driver. The scope of this research are: all data were collected from the respondents by measuring their heart rate. Next, the device to measuring the heart rate was using Arduino Uno software. Then, the participants will consist of 4 males and 4 females from 24 to 25 years old. Lastly, all the results will be analyzed by using IBM SPSS 22 software. Continue to the literature review. I would like to explain about, first, heart rate and distraction, then about driving distraction. Next, the heart rate detection and back task, and lastly, NASA load index. First, the correlation of heart rate and distraction. Several mental conditions compose the human mind. These mental conditions are widely referred to as emotion. Cognitions and perception also included in the mental condition. The driver's heart rate may determine a driver's cognitive distraction. The autonomic nervous system, ANS, is the component of the peripheral nervous system that acts as a control mechanism for maintaining the body under stable condition. ANS has two main components: the sympathetic nervous system, SNS, and the parasympathetic nervous system, PNS. These two components will innervate the sinoatrial nerve to the heart, which will activate the increasing or decreasing the heart rate. Next, the driving distraction. For example, talking on a mobile phone requires mental resources to perform the conversation task. Performing the mobile phone conversation task while driving diverts attention from the driving task. The mental resources available for driving are inversely related to the cognitive workload of the concurrent secondary task, which is talking on the mobile phone. As attention is diverted from the task of driving, the crash risk will be increases. The level of cognitive distraction will be increased if the cognitive workload increase. Then, there are various types of physiological measurement can be used to detect heart rate, such as ECG and EMG. The application of this measurement usually using the electrodes that must be in direct contact with the human body to perform correctly. This not only interferes with the normal operation when driving, but it also impractical for long-term monitoring purposes. The application of pulse sensor is more appropriate by using photoplethysmography method. The concept of this method is using the light source and a photo detector at the surface of skin to measure the volumetric variation of blood circulation. The advantages of this method are it is non-intrusive method which does not interfere with driving and not in direct contact to driver. And most importantly, it is the cost-effective method. Next, the performance measurement is used to assess how well participants complete a given task. Poor performance on a task indicates a high level of cognitive distraction, which the participants must overcome to perform better. To evaluate cognitive distraction, two types of performance tasks are used: primary task and secondary task. The primary task is participants drive using the driving simulator, while secondary tasks differ depending on the type of secondary task used to assess cognitive distraction. Along with examining brain activity, the NBAC task may be beneficial for examining cognitive load and driving distraction issue. The NBAC task is a working memory task with a variable cognitive load. The NBAC task requires the participants to read out a series of stimuli. In these experiments, participants need to repeat back the stimuli from the audio recording. It briefly pauses between each stimulus with consistent pacing to allow the participants time to repeat the stimulus presented and steps before. Numerous researchers used the NBAC task in studies of driver distraction and validated that NBAC task is valid method for assessing cognitive workload. Lastly, some subjective measurement techniques can be performed, such as the NASA Task Load Index. NASA Task Load Index required the participants to evaluate themselves how well their driving performance along the secondary task. NASA Task Load Index is a widely used for subjective measurement instrument that assesses 6 factors: mental demands, physical demands, temporal demands, performance, effort, and frustration levels. The primary reason for choosing the NASA Task Load Index method is it is of implementation and its effectiveness is primarily related to workload evaluation over extended periods. For the methodology, begin with the warning device flowchart. After the assembly of the device components, variables was set in the Arduino software and start to initialize these libraries. Then, heart rate threshold will be set. Pulse sensor also will be initialized to read the heart rate of respondents. If the heart rate reading exceeds the heart rate threshold, the alarm will be triggered to alert the driver to stay calm. This is the experiment procedure flowchart. There were 4 sessions. The output of each session were to observe the respondent's heart rate reading and the answer of the NASA Task Load Index. In session 2, threshold of the heart rate will be taken and set before the session 4. Lastly, after finish all the session, respondents need to answer the feedback form for the warning device. This is the analysis procedure flowchart. All the data such as heart rate reading, answer of the NBAC task, NASA load index, and device feedback will be analyzed by IBM SPSS. So before we go into result and discussion, let's take a look to the video for the whole procedure of the experiment. For the result and discussion, two methods were used. First, repeated measure ANOVA to analyze data heart rate and back task NASA task load index by gender, also for the device feedback. The second one was univariate measure ANOVA to analyze heart rate and back task NASA load index for the entire session. Repeated measure ANOVA was used to analyze multiple data into two or more variable, and for the univariate method are used for multiple data into one variable. The line graph shows that the average value of the heart rate from session 1 to session 4 separated by gender. The analysis shows that the Weeks lambda equal to 0.985, F-test equal to 14.177 with degree of freedom 1, 3, while degree of freedom 2, 2.876 with the p-value less than 0.00, partiality square equal to 0.15. The result indicates statistically significance as the significance value less than 0.05. Thus, considering significant level of alpha equal to 0.05, the null hypothesis is rejected in this case. As we can see, the female average heart rate results were quite similar between the first session with 0 back task until the third session with 2 back tasks. The male average heart rate value gradually increases from first session with 0 back task to the third session with 2 back tasks. Both gender show a significant drop in heart rate, male and female, when entering the fourth session with 2 back tasks with the warning system. From the line graph, the female was more nervous when handling secondary tasks while driving. Studies have found that gender can significantly affect stress level, lifestyle, and more broadly on all aspects of human behavior. This situation was different from male heart rate as they are more relaxed and calm when they needed to handle secondary tasks while driving, but the heart rate was still increasing significantly. The line graph shows that average value of the heart rate from session 1 to session 4 for overall result. The analysis shows F-test equal to 47.956 with the degree freedom 1, 3 and degree freedom 2, 1157 with the p-value less than 0.00 and partiality square equal to 0.12. The result indicates statistically significance as the significance value less than 0.05. Thus, considering significance level of alpha equal to 0.05, the null hypothesis is rejected in this case. As we can see, the entire session average heart rate increased from first session with 0 back task to third session with 2 back tasks. The values show a significant drop of heart rate when entering the fourth session with 2 back tasks with warning system. This proves that secondary tasks affected an increase of heart rate when driving. Both added cognitive tasks and the driving task compete for working memory components. Overall, the warning system device was successfully alerted the driver as there was a significant difference between session 4 and the previous session 3, which was conducted without a warning system. It can be observed that the driver is aware of the warning alarm produced by the device. The line graph shows that the average value of the driver performance from session 1 to session 4 separated by gender. The analysis shows the Weeks lambda equal to 0.905, F-test equal to 0.703, with the degree of freedom 1, 3 and degree of freedom 2 is 20, with the p-value equal to 0.561 and partial t-square equal to 0.95. The result indicates no statistically significant as the significant value more than 0.05. This is because both gender are so determined to maintain a certain level of performance that they will continue to invest mental resources in response to increasing demand until their reserve or available resources is depleted. The line graph shows that the average value of the driver performance from session 1 to session 4 for overall result. The analysis shows F-test equal to 26.280 with a degree freedom 1, 3 and degree of freedom 2, 92 with the p-value less than 0.00, partial t-square equal to 461. The results indicate statistically significance as the significant value less than 0.05. Thus, considering significance level of alpha equal to 0.05, the null hypothesis is rejected in this case. As you can see, driver performance value can be seen gradually decrease from the first session with 0 backtasks to the third session with 2 backtasks. When the overall average driver performance value shows significant increase in performance when entering the fourth session with 2 backtasks with a warning system. This proved that high cognitive distraction caused the driver to struggle to maintain their driving performance. When the drivers heard the alarm, the driver's performance significantly improved when a warning system device is used in session 4 instead of session 3, which is conducted without warning system. This result indicates that when driver attempts to maintain their composure and focus, their driving performance will improve, preventing them from losing their composure and causing the road accidents. The line graph shows that the average value of the NASA Task Load Index from session 1 to session 4 separated by gender. The analysis shows the Weeks lambda equal to 0.456, F-test equal to 7.969 with the degree of freedom 1, 3 and degree of freedom 2 is 20, with the p-value less than 0.01 and partial t-square equal to 0.544. The result indicates statistically significance as the significance value less than 0.05. Thus, considering significant level of alpha equal to 0.05, the null hypothesis is rejected in this case. As you can see, the average NASA Task Load Index value for males are higher than females, but NASA Task Load Index value for both gender gradually increased from the first session to the third session. According to the previous study, males need more effort to maintain their driving performance because males were more aggressive while driving than females. No significant difference between effort in the fourth session conducted with a warning system with the previous third session conducted without a warning system, because both tasks had the same level of the difficulties. The line graph shows that the average value of the NASA Task Load Index from session 1 to session 4 for overall result. The analysis shows F-test equal to 32.948 with the degree of freedom 1, 3 and degree of freedom 2 is 92 with the p-value less than 0.00 and partial t-square equal to 0.518. The result indicates statistically significance as the significance value less than 0.05. Thus, considering significant level of alpha equal to 0.05, the null hypothesis is rejected in this case. As you can see, the entire session average value for NASA Task Load Index increased from first session with 0 backtasks to third session with 2 backtasks. This clearly states that cognitive distraction needs more effort from the driver to maintain their performance during driving. Otherwise, their performance will decrease, leading to accidents in the real driving situation. No significant difference between effort in the fourth session conducting with a warning system with the previous third session conducted without a warning system because both tasks had the same level of difficulties. The bar graph shows that the average value of the responses to the questionnaires during the experiment. The analysis shows the Weeks lambda equal to 0.133, F-test equal to 6.492 with the degree of freedom 1 and 2 equal to 4, p-value less than 0.049, and the partiality square equal to 0.867. The results indicate statistically significance as the significance value less than 0.05. Thus, considering significance level of alpha equal to 0.05, the null hypothesis is rejected in this case. As we can see, answer for device performance got the average value of 4, as all respondents agreed and satisfied with the overall device performance. The device performance includes the capability of the heart rate sensor to detect and analyze the heart rate reading, and warning alarm that is only triggered when the heart rate exceeds the threshold that has been set. The average value for response time for this alarm to be triggered was 4, which means that respondents agreed and satisfied that the warning system quickly warned them when distracted and did not delay. Also, all 8 respondents agreed and were satisfied that the alarm sound did not annoy them and the sound was not too loud. The average value for the position of heart rate given was 2, which means that respondents disagree with this statement. This is because only one heart rate sensor was provided, and the majority of them suggested adding at least 2 heart rate sensors to the steering wheel. Subsequently, they can switch their hand while driving and avoid becoming fatigued, as they must always touch the heart rate sensor to analyze their heart rate reading. Overall, all the drivers agreed that this heart rate sensor warning system could overcome the cognitive distraction. For the conclusion, the development of heart rate sensor warning system was completed successfully. Then, physiological measurement indicated the statistical significance for gender and overall result. Next, performance measurement indicated no statistical significance in gender, but significance in overall result. Subjective measurement indicated that both gender and the overall result was significant. Lastly, all the drivers were satisfied with the device. As a result, the heart rate sensor warning system successfully alert and increased the driving performance of the driver. For the recommendation, this experiment can be improved by the application of the pulse sensor that should be increased to prevent fatigue to the driver. Then, the driver need to provided with the suitable environment to experience the actual driving situation. And lastly, the number of respondents should be increased to 20 to 30 respondents to get more data to analyze, as the data are subjective to each person. That's all from me. If there are any question, you may contact me through the platform that I have stated in the slide. Thank you to the panels for your time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.